We start off today's wrestling news and rumors video with a big update regarding the status of Jey Uso following Hell in a Cell 2020, which saw the current Universal Champion Roman Reigns once again dismantle Jey Uso in convincing fashion. Now there's no doubt that ever since Jey Uso began a solo run on Friday Night SmackDown, fans were wondering if the WWE are planning to split up Jimmy and Jey Uso in the near future, but apparently that is the furthest thing from the case. And Vince plans for the Usos to once again become a tag team after Hell in a Cell 2020. Considering Jey Uso's feud with Roman Reigns is reportedly set to be ended very soon, with Jimmy and Jey returning to the WWE's tag team division on the blue brand. It's still unknown if Vince will be having the Usos form an alliance with Roman Reigns in the coming weeks to basically create a brand new Samoan Shield with Roman Reigns being their tribal chief, but regardless, fans should expect Jey Uso to resume his role as a tag team superstar very soon, alongside Jimmy Uso, with Roman moving on to a bigger feud for the Universal Championship in the coming months. Let us know if you feel the WWE should continue to use Jey Uso as a singles competitor on Friday Night SmackDown, and perhaps draft Jimmy Uso over to Monday Night Raw, or are these two stars better off as a tag team for the most part? After months of failing to win the WWE title from Drew McIntyre at this past weekend's Hell in a Cell 2020 pay-per-view event, Randy Orton finally reached the pinnacle of sports entertainment for the 14th time by winning Drew's WWE title after a very hard-fought Hell in a Cell match. While it seems as though the Drew McIntyre and Randy Orton feud or storyline has been going on for what seems like an eternity, and that most would like to see Randy Orton defend his newly won WWE Championship against a new rival, most wrestling fans were well aware that the WWE were not going to be pushing Drew McIntyre to the sidelines immediately after losing the title, and on the following night's edition of Monday Night Raw last night, the former WWE Champion Drew McIntyre made a statement out of the new Money in the Bank briefcase holder The Miz with an emphatic win, with last night's Raw episode closing out with Drew McIntyre and Randy Orton brawling. However, if a new backstage rumor proves to be true, once Randy Orton is finally finished up with his storyline with Drew McIntyre, something that will likely be wrapped up after Survivor Series 2020, Vince McMahon is planning for Randy Orton's next challenger for the title to be none other than The Fiend Bray Wyatt. A storyline that the WWE not so subtly put into fans' mind last night on Raw, with Randy's segment with Alexa Bliss and The Fiend Bray Wyatt, before the storyline was then turned back to Drew McIntyre. According to one of our sources, while the planned WWE title match as of right now for WrestleMania 37 will be Randy Orton defending his championship against Edge in one of the two main events of the show, in the meantime, we have been informed that a very likely scenario will see The Fiend win the WWE title from Randy Orton in late 2020, with Randy likely to reclaim the championship when the road to WrestleMania 37 officially starts early next year, with the reasoning for this decision being that Vince wants to give The Fiend a bit of momentum even if he's only getting a short WWE title reign. And as well, the other reason for this rumored short title reign for The Fiend Bray Wyatt is so that Randy Orton can get closer to reaching John Cena's and Ric Flair's World Championship record of 16, because with Orton currently being at 14 title reigns, and then likely losing the gold to The Fiend and then winning it back early next year, that would put the Viper at 15 WWE World titles overall, just shy of John Cena and Ric Flair. And while Randy Orton would not likely be winning the WWE Championship for quite some time after Edge gets his hands on the title at WrestleMania 37, it certainly would be easy for WWE to tie Randy Orton with John Cena's and Ric Flair's record well before Randy decides to retire in a few years. While it's doubtful that many wrestling fans view Lana as a legit contender for any of the WWE's Women's Division Championships, at this point with how the company had booked the ravishing Russian as of late, as surprising as it may sound, Vince McMahon has apparently been quite impressed with Lana's performances over the past month or so, and feels Lana has improved tremendously in the ring and is deserving of a fairly solid push in the Women's Division, despite not being able to make the most out of her #1 contenders match for Asuka's Raw Women's Championship recently. On last night's edition of Monday Night Raw, Lana somewhat redeemed herself by winning a big fatal 4-way match against Nikki Cross, Lacey Evans, and Peyton Royce that secures Lana a big spot at Survivor Series 2020 for Team Raw. According to the latest backstage rumor, Vince feels that Lana has big potential to be a huge star as a babyface in the coming months, with WWE apparently using the constant table-breaking spots to start the babyface run for Lana and gain sympathy from fans. While we cannot guarantee this as of yet, one of our sources has mentioned that Vince McMahon is actually considering the idea of having Lana as a sole survivor for the Women's Team Raw at Survivor Series 2020 to officially kickstart Lana's big push in WWE on the Raw brand. Let us know your thoughts on Vince McMahon planning a big babyface push for Lana in the near future. And do you believe that Lana should eventually win the Raw Women's title, which is the direction Vince apparently plans? Or do you think that Lana does not deserve such a massive push, especially when there are lots of other women's division superstars on the roster who are more than deserving of the big push instead? We now have an interesting update to say the least regarding Lars Sullivan's status with WWE, because while there have been countless reasons for WWE to part ways with Lars Sullivan over the past year, Vince McMahon has not only decided to keep Lars Sullivan in WWE, but McMahon has pretty well continued where he had left off with Lars Sullivan before he had been sidelined with injuries, and that's Lars demolishing lower-ranking superstars as he works his way back up the card. According to one of our sources, Vince is still reportedly very keen on Lars Sullivan as a main event caliber superstar on Friday Night SmackDown, and we have been told that out of all the superstars in WWE right now, Lars is the guy that Vince intends to essentially push to the moon, so to speak, in the coming months. A new backstage rumor has revealed that once Roman Reigns is done feuding with his cousin Jey Uso, McMahon apparently plans to skyrocket Lars Sullivan into a feud with Reigns for the Universal Championship, with the rumors stating that Vince believes that Lars Sullivan will be the next superstar in WWE to be the Universal Champion after Roman Reigns, meaning that there is a chance that Lars Sullivan will be winning the title from Roman Reigns when they do eventually feud in late 2020. Let us know if you think that Vince is making a wise choice by giving Lars Sullivan a huge push on SmackDown following his return to the company, or do you believe that if anything, Lars should have been released from the company and has no business being anywhere near the main event title picture? We now have the main story featured in this video, and it is regarding the new rumors that have started to go around regarding Bayley leaving WWE temporarily after she lost her SmackDown Women's title to Sasha Banks at this past weekend's Hell in a Cell 2020 pay-per-view event. Now there's no doubt that most wrestling fans were rooting for Sasha Banks to finally get her much needed revenge on Bayley at Hell in a Cell and win the SmackDown Women's Championship, and that is exactly what ended up happening. Although with the rumors of Bayley apparently leaving WWE for the foreseeable future, one of our sources has mentioned that WWE decided to have Bayley lose the SmackDown Women's title to Sasha Banks at Hell in a Cell because of Bayley requesting Vince to have some time off from WWE due to personal reasons, with one of those reasons being that Bayley's stepdad had recently passed, and Bayley wants to spend some time with family and away from the cameras in WWE. Apparently, the original plan was for Bayley to retain her SmackDown Women's title against Sasha Banks at Hell in a Cell, and then go on to lose the championship to Sasha Banks at Survivor Series 2020. But with Bayley asking Vince to take a leave of absence from WWE, Vince was forced to have Sasha win the title at Hell in a Cell this past weekend instead. A new backstage rumor has revealed that if the rumors of Bayley leaving WWE for the immediate future are true, Bayley would likely have a break from WWE much like Charlotte Flair for a few months, and we have been told that Bayley would likely return in early 2021, perhaps during the 2021 Women's Royal Rumble match.